Hello. Basic custom duty, SWS, IGST and GST compensation cess. These are the four duties which we studied in our last session. Now this session we are continuing with the rest of the duties. The first for this session is protective duty. Okay, protective duty. The name suggests that we want to impose this duty to protect ourselves, to protect our economy, to protect our domestic industry. Now, some details about this duty, protective duty. This is given under section 6 and 7 of Customs Tariff Act. Okay, you know it. Apart from barring BCD, all other duties are imposed through Customs Tariff Act. Okay, so this is given in section 6 and 7 of Customs Tariff Act. Okay, protective duty. Now, if the Tariff Commission, it feels that certain imports, they are posing a threat to Indian domestic industry, in that case they can take a decision to impose the protective duty. Okay, protective duty normally is seen as a tool to protect the economy from the foreign goods threat. But the amazing point here with regard to protective duty is this, that WTO, it does not favor the protective duty. Okay, now I know that it would be surprising for you that WTO does not favor imposing protective duty. Why? Please see, the purpose, the objective of WTO is to increase the volumes of international trade. That is what it is created for, WTO. Okay, so WTO aims to increase the volumes of international trade. It facilitates international trade. Okay, it really wishes to boost international trade. These are the basic objectives of WTO. Okay, protective duty, imposing protective duty, somehow it would defeat these purposes of WTO. How? Try to see that section 6 and 7 of CTA, they states that in case the Tariff Commission, it feels, it recommends that yes, certain imports, they are posing a threat to the Indian economy, then you can impose the protective duty. Now please see, world over, the customs laws, they are almost similar. Okay, so if a particular import can pose a threat to us, there are so many countries like us. When I say like us, means that they are also in the same stage of development in which we are. We are a developing country. Okay, there are numerous countries which are coming into this category of developing country. There are numerous countries who are underdeveloped countries. Okay, so for most of them, when they are making any imports from a relatively advanced country, such import, generally they feel that such imports pose threats to their own economy. Okay, now please see that if all these countries, they start imposing protective duty on these grounds, it means most of the countries then, they would start imposing protective duty on most of their imports. It would be a situation where ultimately the volume of international trades then would go down. Okay, and then it would entirely defeat the purpose of WTO. And that is why we say that imposing protective duty, it is not compatible with the WTO regulations. And this is the reason why protective duty is seldom imposed. Though we have the provision, we can impose it, but it is seldom imposed. The reason is fairly simple, because we are the country, we are the founder member of WTO. Whatever WTO regulations are, we have already participated in making those regulations. Okay, so if members like us, we do not pay heed to the regulations, to the WTO regulations, that would be very unfair then. Okay, so even though we have this provision of imposing protective duty under section 6 and 7 of the Customs Tariff Act, but still we seldom impose this protective duty. Okay, now as a student, and whatever I discussed so far, you may conclude that seemingly it is not the right approach, because protective duty is essentially to protect our own economy, our own domestic industry. So we must impose it. So I would tell you here that we do not, or we seldom impose protective duty, because we are abide by the WTO regulations, being a founder member of WTO. So we seldom impose it, but at the same time we have number of other mechanisms. We have other duties also, imposing those duties, and by taking those actions, we do protect our economy and our domestic industry. Okay, so what are the details for protective duty? I told you that protective duty, it is imposed when the Tariff Commission, it recommends that a certain import is posing a threat to the Indian economy, and then it would recommend that yes, you can impose the duty, but we seldom impose it. You know the reasons for that. Okay, but in case we want to impose this on certain imports, then after imposing it, within 6 months, it has to be presented into the parliament. This bill has to be presented in the parliament, and this has to be, passed from the parliament. Then only you can impose the protective duty. Okay, and you must remember this, that it is not compatible with the WTO regulations. So that was number one, protective duty. Just a theoretical point here, a theoretical details about protective duty. No practical applications, because we seldom apply it. So from the examination point of view, they may ask you to write 3 or 4 sentences for protective duty, but there would not be any practical question on it. Now the next one, the next duty is under section 9 of Customs Tariff Act. This is called the CVD of subsidized articles. Please see, CVD on subsidized articles. This is the second duty under section 9 of CTA. The other names for CVD on subsidized articles is number one, anti-subsidy duty. You can call it anti-subsidy duty also. And this name, anti-subsidy duty, it really defines it very well. Anti-subsidy. Okay. Why this duty here? Why this anti-subsidy duty? Now please see. If a country, it provides certain subsidy to its manufacturer on manufacturing certain goods, obviously the cost of manufacturing those goods to the manufacturer would would be, comparatively a lower cost. For example, let us suppose that in country X, some manufacturer is manufacturing this kind of pen. Okay. Now he can manufacture it at a cost of say rupees 10. Right. Now if he manufacturing it and the cost is 10 rupees, obviously he can sell it at a price which should be more than 10. Maybe at 11 rupees or 11.5 or whatever. But actually it should be more than 10 because 10 is the cost to him. Right. Now let us suppose that the government of that country, it gives a subsidy of rupees 3 per pen to the manufacturer. That means now the cost of producing it has now been reduced by rupees 3. That means now at a cost of rupees 7 he is able to manufacture it. Even though the cost he is incurring is rupees 10, but against it he is getting a 3 rupees subsidy from its government. So that means onto his shoulders the burden is only of rupees 7. That means now he can sell this pen at any price above 7, maybe at rupees 8, which otherwise he cannot. Right? So if he is able to now sell it at rupees 8, and let us come to our country now. Let us suppose that in our country, the manufacturer, they are also able to make this kind of pen at rupees 10, but our government do not give any kind of subsidy to them. Okay. Now, if our importers, they start importing this kind of pen from that country, because they can get it at a cheaper rate, because he can sell it even at rupees 7.5 or rupees 8. Okay. So this product, when come into India, the price of this product would be less than the price of the similar goods in our markets. Obviously it would adversely affect the industry of pen industry or industry which manufactures this pen. Okay. Now how to protect ourselves from this? Under this situation, we have this duty by the name of anti-subsidy duty, section 9 of Customs Tariff Act. Okay. Now whenever we see, we means the Tariff Commission, whenever we see that certain imports are such that they have received certain subsidies in their own country, in that case we impose anti-subsidy duty on the imports of such goods. Now next question is that how much duty should be imposed? Okay, what would be the quantum of duty? Okay, see, the volume, the quantum of duty would be subjected to the amount of subsidy received by the product. In no situation, in no case, the duty amount can exceed the amount of subsidy received by those goods. In no situation. So that means what? It means you can impose the anti-subsidy duty at the most equal to the amount of subsidy received by those goods in their country, not beyond that. Okay. Now how to find this? How do our government come to know that how much of subsidy this product has received in its own country? Now please see, that is why there is a provision of provisional anti-subsidy duty. In case the Custom Department, it is not able to get this information right away, then they can impose the anti-subsidy duty on a provisional basis. Okay. And once they receive all the information about the subsidy being given to that product, then they can finalize the amount of anti-subsidy duty. Okay. Once anti-subsidy duty imposed, it would be imposed for a period of 5 years. That means in case we are imposing duty on this kind of product, so on this kind of product there would be this duty which would be applicable for 5 years. For all imports in those 5 years, they would be subject to anti-subsidy duty. It can also, the time period of 5 years, it can also extend beyond this period for another 5 years. That means for up to a maximum of 10 years on a particular product, anti-subsidy duty could be imposed. Got it? Okay. So why anti-subsidy duty? And number two, what would be the quantum of the duty? Both of these things we have discussed, right? Let me tell you one more point here, that from the time we have implemented GST, this duty has lost most of its importance now. Okay, so again, this is the kind of duty which we are rarely imposing on our imports. Okay, so the first two duties we have studied, the protective duty and the anti-subsidy duty. Okay, though they are in our syllabus, we are discussing them, but from the examination point of view, I would say that they are not so important. Okay, now coming to the third duty, which is of highest importance. This duty is of highest importance considering the exams, and the duty is anti-dumping duty, section 9A of CTA, Customs Tariff Act. Anti-dumping duty. Okay, the chances are that either you would be having a theoretical question on anti-dumping duty or maybe a practical questions also. Please note that the next session would entirely be on the practical questions of these duties which we have studied in this session and the last session. Okay. So now, anti-dumping duty. To understand anti-dumping duty, first we should know the meaning of the word dumping. What is dumping? Dumping is a situation where a certain product is being imported in our country from a particular country and in larger quantities. Okay, in other words, if a certain country is exporting certain goods in very large quantities to a particular country, we would say that it would be a case of dumping. That country who is exporting goods is dumping certain goods into the country who is importing it. Okay, for example, like in our case, in India's case, many goods, they come in so large quantities from China. Okay, it seems that their intention is to dump their goods into India. Now, why any country would like to export so much of goods or goods in such large quantities to a particular country? The answer is simple, just to affect their economy. This is the only reason, no other reason. They are not so philanthropic that they are going to give you goods, their goods, at lower prices. No, they are not, that large-hearted people. I would say that. The only reason behind they are exporting such large quantities of particular goods is only to affect the Indian economy adversely. Okay. Now, how can we save ourselves with this kind of dumping? Obviously, the tool in our hand is anti-dumping duty. In case we observe that certain goods are being dumped here, okay, please note that in case of dumping, the prime characteristic of dumping is that goods are coming in larger quantities. Okay, when the goods are coming in larger quantities, obviously the price of such goods would be comparatively lower. The goods also would be comparatively cheaper. Right? Now this is the principle of economics. Okay, so please note that dumping simply means importing of goods, or from their point of view, from the exporting country's point of view, it would be exporting goods in larger quantities. And when they are exporting it in larger quantities, obviously the price would be comparatively less. That would be the only reason why the importer from that country, from the other country, they are importing those goods in such large quantities. Okay, because if the exporting country, it keeps the price high, why the importers from this country would import that in large quantities? They are importing it in large quantities only because the price has been kept low. Okay, so in case of dumping, you would see larger quantities, price comparatively lesser than the normal price. Quality is not a criteria in case of dumping. Many times people say that these goods are of low quality, degraded quality. No, it is not like that. In case of dumping, quality is not the criteria at all. These could be very good quality goods, but when they come in large quantities and at lower prices, it would be a case of dumping. Okay. Now, to counter dumping, what we do? We impose anti-dumping duty. Okay. So now, why we impose anti-dumping? That part is clear to you. The second part is at what rates or what would be the quantum of anti-dumping duty. This is the second point here, the second part. Please see, the rate of anti-dumping duty, it is basically based on dumping margin. Now, what is the meaning of dumping margin? Dumping margin means the difference between the price of the goods which prevail there in the exporting country and the price at which they have exported the goods to you. The difference between these two prices is called dumping margin. Okay, and dumping margin is the basis of anti-dumping duty for calculating the rate for anti-dumping duty. Okay, now practically how we compute anti-dumping duty, and that is what we do. You would get practical questions on this topic, anti-dumping duty. We would do certain questions here on anti-dumping duty also. Okay, you would see that the quantum of anti-dumping duty, how to work out that quantum, it would be on the basis of what notification about anti-dumping duty has been released by the government. Okay, even in the practical question you would see that it would be written there that as per the notification, anti-dumping duty would be at these rates, or by adopting this method, anti-dumping duty would have to be worked out. These guidance, this instruction would be given to you, and you would follow the instructions and would work out the amount of anti-dumping duty. Okay, so there is no such clear-cut formula which we need to remember for computing the anti-dumping duty. The fact is, and I think this is very convenient to all of us, to students, I am saying that the instruction how to work out anti-dumping duty, it would be right there in the question. Okay, this is only for your understanding that the rate of anti-dumping duty is decided on the basis of dumping margin. What is dumping margin? I told you. Okay, but in practical question it would be given how to compute the anti-dumping duty. They would give you a reference of a notification and the instruction that this is the way to work out the anti-dumping duty. Okay, when we would see the practical question, you would come across that, you would see this. Okay, so why anti-dumping duty, what is anti-dumping duty, and what would be the rate or the quantum of anti-dumping duty? We have discussed it all. Now moving to the next one. The next one is safeguard duty. Section 8B, safeguard duty. When we were discussing protective duty, okay, I told you that it is not compatible with the WTO regulations. Then I told that do not worry, we got certain other tools whereby we can protect our economy. So this anti-dumping duty is one such tool, right? But you might ask a question, sir, whether anti-dumping duty is compatible with WTO regulations or this also is not compatible? The answer for this is imposing anti-dumping duty is definitely in harmony with WTO regulations. Okay, why? The reason is simple. The reason is anti-dumping, we impose anti-dumping because some country has dumped certain goods here, and dumping of goods, it is covered under unfair trade practices. Dumping of goods is covered under unfair trade practices. WTO is the organization, which facilitate international trade, which want to give a pace to the growth of the international trade, okay, which really wishes to, reduce or completely eliminate the unfair trade practices. Dumping is one of the unfair trade practices, and therefore that is why imposing anti-dumping duty is in harmony with the WTO regulations. WTO has no objection if you impose this duty on your imports which you observe as the case of dumping in your country. Okay. The next is, as I said, is safeguard duty. Okay. Now, safeguard, again a kind of protection, right? Why there are so many duties, for the purpose of protecting our economy and our domestic industry? Because it is the purpose of our customs law, the purpose of the Customs Act. I told you that there are three purposes. Purpose number one, raising revenue for the government. Purpose number two, it is what? To regulate international trade. And purpose number three is to protect, to safeguard our Indian economy from the outside threats, outside commercial threats. Okay. So yes, the next one is under section 8B, safeguard duty. Safeguard duty. Now, you should be very careful listening to this duty, safeguard duty, because there are lots and lots of details about this duty, safeguard duty. And if you read it from the book, number one, in books, it is not given in full details. Number two, if you got a book where it is given with full details, then you would find it very complicated also. Okay. So be very attentive listening to this duty, safeguard duty. Point number one, safeguard duty, even though section 8B states that this duty can be imposed if the Tariff Commission recommends it. And why it would recommend? If there is a certain import and Commission feels that this import may pose a threat to the Indian economy or to the industry, then yes, it would recommend government to impose the safeguard duty. Okay, this is what section 8B initially states. But then when you go deeper, this would give you a clear-cut situation that only under this situation you can impose safeguard duty. What is that situation? The situation is that if you are importing a product and it is such a product that manufacturing it requires a lot of technological advancement. It requires quite advanced technology to manufacture it. And you are importing it from a country which is technologically much advanced than you. In such a situation, this safeguard duty can be imposed. For example, let us suppose that somebody imports, say, mobiles from USA. Now, mobile is something which requires a good level of technological advancement to manufacture an advanced mobile, okay, with good features, okay. And USA, definitely USA technologically is far advanced than India. At least this is the present status, okay. So this is the situation that you are importing certain goods, manufacturing of those requires technological advancement, and you are importing from such a country which is technologically more advanced than you. Then it is the appropriate situation, appropriate case of imposing safeguard duty. You safeguard yourself because those with whom you are transacting, they are much more advanced than you. Okay, so to safeguard yourself, you would impose safeguard duty. No problem here. If you wish, I can give an example to make it more clear for you. Let us suppose that a mobile manufacturer in India, okay, they are making mobiles wherein there are say 50 features, and this mobile with 50 features, the market value of this mobile is say 4,000 rupees, okay, and there is a manufacturer of mobiles in USA. He makes mobiles because he has got advanced technology available to him, so he is making more advanced mobiles, say with 100 features, very advanced features, okay. Now let us suppose that an importer, he is importing those mobiles from USA. Let us suppose that he is able to sell the imported mobile here at a price of say 5,000 rupees. The Indian mobile with 50 features, 4,000 rupees. US mobile with 100 features, 5,000 rupees. If you wish to purchase the mobile, you tell me which one you would purchase. Okay. Maybe if there are certain constraints about your pocket, still you would see that by spending only 1,000 rupees extra, you are getting a highly advanced mobile phone. Okay. I can give you an example where price is the equal one, or maybe the price of the imported goods, it is lesser than the price of the domestic goods. But I am giving an example where even the price of the imported goods it is higher than the price of the domestic goods. Okay. Still, an average rational purchaser would purchase the imported article. Okay. Now when an average rational purchaser would purchase the imported mobile, what would happen to our mobile industry? You can think about it. Okay. Obviously, in no time the industry would get boomed. It would be out of sight, out of picture. Okay. So to protect, to safeguard, this is the situation where the government imposes safeguard duty. Okay. So that's fine. This is point number one. Now point number two. Point number two is this. In case such goods, they are coming from a developing country, that means when they are coming from a developing country, we should not impose safeguard duty, because technologically that country is also a developing country. It is almost at the same level of development as we are. Okay, so we should not impose the safeguard duty in that case. Okay, but let us suppose that a developing country, it is exporting this technologically advanced article to India, and now it is exporting it in a very large quantity. Now what is the meaning of large quantity here? I would tell you. In case it starts exporting such an advanced article, a developing country, please note, in larger quantities in India, okay, that means there is something fishy about it. Obviously we would know that this developing country, when it is at the same level of technological advancement as we are, how he is able to manufacture that much advanced gadget in its own country? That means either it is getting support of some other country, or it is some other country who is exporting these articles through that developing country in India. Getting me? In such a situation, we have made a provision here, and this is point number two, that in case such an article is coming into India from a developing country, and the total import of this article from the developing country exceeds 3% of the total import of this article from all the countries, then in that case we would start imposing safeguard duty on the imports of this developing country also. For example, let us suppose that USA exporting certain mobiles to India. USA, more technological advanced country. So right away we can impose the safeguard duty. But then let us suppose that USA, with the help of Nepal now, the face is of Nepal now. USA sending goods to Nepal, and now Nepal sending the same US goods to India. Okay. I am taking the example of Nepal. This can be the other countries also, maybe Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, or maybe Malaysia, Indonesia. You can take any country. Okay. Just I am taking an example. Okay. Let us suppose that now US now taking the help of a developing country, they are now, that country, that developing country now is exporting such goods here in India. Then we would not impose safeguard duty up till the import from such a developing country is up to 3% of the total import of such article in India. Okay, but the moment these imports crosses 3% limit, at that point of time we would start imposing safeguard duty even on the imports of this developing country. Then we would not see that it is a developing country and we should not impose safeguard duty. Okay, the moment import of such article from that developing country exceeds 3% of the total import of that article, total import means import from all the countries collectively. Okay, it exceeds 3% of the total import of that article, then in that case we would start imposing safeguard duty from the imports of this developing country also. Okay. Point number 3. Point number 3 is, let us suppose that the country, the advanced country, is really very advanced in the sense that they are very smart also. Okay. So it knows that Indian customs law, it states that the moment import of these kind of goods from a developing country exceeds 3%, then they would start imposing safeguard duty, right? So what they can do, they can start exporting these goods with the help of various developing countries. So now not one, number of developing countries, they are exporting the same goods into India. Okay. Now in such a situation, how to safeguard ourselves? This is point number 3 in safeguard duty. Point number 3 says that if such an import, means the import of such an article, this article is being imported from more than one developing country, and individually every single developing country, the import from that country is less than 3% of the total import of this article, but collectively whatever imports are coming from the developing country all together, okay, collectively the total imports from all the developing countries exceeds 9% of the total import of such article into India, then in that case we start imposing safeguard duty on the imports of all of these developing countries. Okay, I am repeating point number 3 here. Point number 3 says that if such an article is being imported from more than one developing country, and individually every single developing country, its share of export is less than 3% of the total import of such article into India, but collectively combining all the imports from all the developing country, the total import from these developing country exceeds 9% of the total import of this article. When I say now the total import of the article means import from all the countries including the developed countries. Okay, if it exceeds 9% from the total import of that article in India, then in that case we would start imposing safeguard duty on the imports of all of these developing countries. Okay, so that means now we are safe. right? These are the three important points in case of safeguard duty. Point number one, when such goods are coming from an advanced country, yes, immediately you can impose safeguard duty. Number two, when these goods are being imported from one developing country, okay, so far the import from this developing country is up to 3% of the total import of this article in India, we would not impose safeguard duty. But then when it would cross 3% limit, then we would start imposing safeguard duty from the imports of this developing country also. Okay. Point number three, in case this import is being done from number of developing countries, and individually every single developing country, the quantum of import from any one developing country is less than 3% of the total import of such article, but collective import from the developing countries is more than 9% of the total import of such article in India, then we would start imposing safeguard duty on the imports of all of these developing countries. Got it? I repeated it twice, everything. Okay. I hope this is clear to you. So these are the three major points in safeguard duty. Now the next point is that how we are going to compute safeguard duty, whether there would be a particular rate, a certain rate with which we would compute it, or there would be a certain quantum of safeguard duty. Again, as it was in the case of anti-dumping duty, the government would notify the method of imposing safeguard duty. In our case, in the question itself, it would be given that safeguard duty is to be imposed this way or at this rate. This would be given to us. Okay, we would do the practical problems and then you can see that also, right? So that was safeguard duty. One aspect of safeguard duty is this, that many a times it is being imposed on provisional basis, provisional safeguard duty. Okay, so in case of provisional safeguard duty, in case finally the commission decide that no, it should not be the case of safeguard duty, though you have provisionally imposed it, then in that case you make a refund of the duty to the importer. Or if you find it that yes, under this situation you should impose this and you have already imposed it, then it is the right, you have taken the right judgment that point of time. The other point of in safeguard duty is this, that once this safeguard duty is imposed, it would be valid for 4 years. That means if on a particular product they imposed the safeguard duty, it would be valid for 4 years and the time period can be extended up to 10 years. Got it? So that was in relation to safeguard duty. Please see that I have not written the details about the duties on the board, but we have discussed it. Every single duty we have discussed at length, and I know all of you would be able to understand everything. What else? Let me give a summary to you about the duties. In customs, primarily we got these 8 duties. Number 1 is basic custom duty. Number 2, SWS. Okay, you may or may not call it a duty, but then I am talking about with a view to do the practical questions. Okay, point number 3 is IGST. Number 4 is GST compensation cess. Number 5, protective duty. Number 6, anti-subsidy duty. Number 7, anti-dumping, and number 8 finally safeguard duty. Okay, so these are the 8 duties which are the prime duties under Customs Act and Customs Tariff Act. Okay, now something about the export duties also. In case of export duty, I told you that we impose duties mostly on our imports. Why? I have already given you the reasons number of times, and you know it, I know it. We seldom impose duty on our exports. Why? Again, you know the reason for it. right? But yes, there are certain commodities, there are certain goods. If you export them, you would have to pay certain export duty. Okay, what would be that duty? First, let me tell you, when I'm saying export duty, it means the basic custom duty for exports. Okay, which are the goods on which you need to pay export duty? Number one is de-oiled rice bran. De-oiled rice bran. Rice bran. It is the skin of rice. Okay, and that too after you have extracted oil from it. So if you are exporting that, there is an export duty of 10%. In case you export leather, then on leather, which is meant for making luggage, the export duty is 25%. In case you are exporting ferrous waste and scrap, ferrous means iron, iron waste and scrap, then the export duty is 15%. Export duty rate is 10% on the skin of lamb, L-A-M-B, fur or skin of lamb, and also on the snake's skin. If you are exporting snake skin, the export duty rate is 10%. Okay, so these are the few cases wherein we impose the export duty. Otherwise, all of our exports are duty free. Before concluding the session, let me just tell you about the exemptions under customs. In customs, the exemptions could be kind of general exemption or maybe specific exemptions. Okay, what is the meaning of general exemption? General exemption simply means exemption on certain goods which is notified by the central government. Okay, notification in Gazette. Basically, this is the way they introduce an exemption on particular articles. Okay, this general exemption, it may be a full exemption or it may be a part exemption also. Full exemption means that the entire duty is exempted. Nothing would have to be paid. Part exemption means that some value, part of the value is exempted, but part of the value would attract some duty. So that would be called the partly exempted goods. Okay. There could be a case where exemption is given on the fulfillment of certain conditions. So if somebody fulfills those conditions, he can avail the exemption, otherwise not. Okay. What is the meaning of specific exemptions or special exemptions? These special or specific exemption, it means that, see, a particular importer, it makes an application to the tariff commission that I am going to import these goods and I am importing it for this particular purpose. If the purpose is a philanthropic purpose, it is a purpose for the benefit of the society. In that case, if the commission feels that it is worthy of it, then it may extend, it may give the exemption to that importer. This specific exemption, it would be specific to an importer, specific to a particular import transaction. Okay, that would entirely depend on the cause and the purpose for which the importer is making this import. If the commission, the government finds it worthwhile, then it may give this specific exemption to the importer. Okay, so we discussed all the duties now, including the export duty rates on certain goods and something about the exemptions, the classification of exemption, which is general and the specific exemptions. Okay, next session we are going to do practical problems on the issue of duties. So I am concluding the session now. Thank you.